This is Jason Matthew. I'm an educational developer at TMU at CELT, and we're looking at a hands-on approach of GenAI tools. Okay, so for the agenda today, we're going to be looking at Gemini's multimodal features on the phone app. We're going to be looking at Nano Banana, that's the code name for the image generator, guided learning, GEMS, Canvas, and then we're going to have some time to discuss. So this is our learning space. You know, it's okay that you don't get everything in this session. We are recording this session. Feel free to stop me. I don't mind getting interrupted. Let me know if you're stuck, you're lost, you need some guidance. This is a nice small group, so we can all work together. Let me know if I'm going too fast. And please share in this space. As I said, GenAI, it's new. All of us, we are now trying to figure this thing out. Nobody's an expert. And the more we share the good and the bad, our experiences, the better we'll be for it. I make space for others to speak. And well, as I said, there, tech will tech because I tested everything I'm going to do up to this morning. I all worked. But when you're doing the presentation itself, something might go wrong. So that's be wary of that. So just remember that the Gen AI, generative AI landscape is in a constant state of flux. So things that we are doing today, like in the menus and so on, they might subject to change. Like for instance, the last time I was doing a workshop, one of the upload buttons wasn't there anymore. And that means we couldn't even use that feature. So always know that Google and ChatGPT, all these guys, they keep changing their interface. So if you don't see a button there, it might be somewhere else, or they might have taken out that function. Let's be wary of that. And although we have the ability to upload content, always keep in mind that we should be really looking at only uploading low sensitivity, public, open access materials. And there's a link there with the different classification guides. You can see what qualifies as low sensitivity. And this is how we should I like this approach is from AI for Education, and that team, they're very active in the K-12 space, but they were one of the leaders in addressing AI in education from the start when generative AI came on the scene about 2 years ago. And they have a kind of framework there, how to use AI responsibly every time, and it's to evaluate the initial output. So always when you get this output from the AI, you need to critically analyze it. You need to verify the facts and figures and quotes because we know from that these AI, they can hallucinate or fabricate information, make up stuff. So it's very important that we verify this. We need to engage, like these chatbots, they will give you an answer, but it mightn't be exactly what you're looking for. And this is where they are trained in natural language. They're trained to have a conversation with to see if you can improve the output. And just revise the work. And just remember that you are responsible for what you create there. So always be transparent of how you use these tools. So this, I think, is a great guideline for instructors as well as students. So anybody who's using AI should follow something like this as a kind of guideline on how to use AI. So coming to Abdul's question now, what's the difference between ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all these different LLMs? Well, to be frank, you see these companies might say, well, Claude is better at coding, but then ChatGPT last week put out a new version of Codex that seems to be doing better and stuff. At the end of the day, all these different LLMs, they have reached a point right now, especially for our uses, that they are very good. And whichever LLM that you decide to go with, you know, it will give you what you're looking for. It all depends on the prompting that you do as well. And you follow certain techniques and you'll get the same kind of output. So from that perspective, from a technological perspective, you mightn't see a great difference in terms of the models that you use. But the reason why TMU went with Gemini was that for one thing, it's a Google product, and we already in a Google ecosystem with Google Workspace, Gmail, Chat, and Google Calendar, and all these things. So it made sense that we could just have a license with Gemini. And that's one of the reasons why they went with Gemini over ChatGPT and so on. Now, one of the questions I get a lot from faculty is that, does this mean that the expectation from the institution is that we use Gemini, we use AI at all? And the answer is no, the institution is not trying to force AI onto you. You have that academic freedom to decide how, if, when you're going to use AI in your course. But one of the things that the institution was looking at was from an accessibility aspect of it, meaning that this is a new technology that people are using. There are the paid models and the free models, and the paid models, obviously, they are better. And they can have the digital divide that but students who could afford the paid models have an advantage over those students who can't. So TMU decided to give Gemini, to take an enterprise license of Gemini to make it free for everyone. So anybody who has a TMU account, faculty, staff, uh, students, they all have access to this Gemini for free. And because it's on an enterprise license and not a commercial, not a private license, it's the Google's AI models they do not train on the data that you input in TMU's version of Gemini. Now, because it's in a kind of what we could call a walled garden space where it's trying to protect your privacy, there are some features that are not available in this version of TMU Gemini that is available in other versions of Gemini. The big one being we don't have VO, which is a video generator, so it generates videos. And the other thing is that again, because you're trying to protect your privacy, this version of Gemini can't go into your other Google applications. So it can't go into Gmail, it can't go into your calendar, and so on. All right, so the first one we're going to be looking at is the mobile app. So we're going to be looking at Gemini Live, and it's a feature of Google's Gemini AI that lets you have real-time natural conversations with the AI using your voice, similar to talking with a person rather than typing questions. And you can interrupt the AI naturally and ask follow-ups, and it responds immediately in spoken language. So, like for instance, well, this is how it looks like on your phone. And if you don't have the Gemini app on your phone and you're curious about trying out the Gemini Live feature right now in this session, you can feel free to download it. It's available for both Android um, users as well as the iPhone. Just go to the App Store, the relevant App Store, and you could download and install the app. Now, when you sign in, use your TMU credentials like how you're signing into Gmail or any other Google application, and it will lead you to your TMU version of Gemini, and you should see interface like this, and that's Gemini. And in that, if you can see my cursor, in that bottom right corner there, that icon there is is the feature we're going to be talking about with Gemini Live. All right, so what I did was that I did this last night because I was pretty sure this might fail on me if I try to do it live. So this is me using my phone, and I'm going to be using Gemini Live. So remember it's that icon in the corner of the bottom right there. So this is what I did. Describe what you see.
I see a succulent plant in a terracotta pot. It has white and green striped leaves and is surrounded by rocks.
What type of plant is that?
That looks like a zebra haworthia, also known as Haworthiopsis fasciata.
Will it grow best in?
Zebra haworthias prefer bright, indirect light. They like well draining soil and should be watered thoroughly, but allowed to dry out between waterings. They're also quite drought tolerant.
Okay, so that was just a quick demo of how we could use Gemini Live, and I'll just give a shout out to Ziggy, who was a good helper in that one. All right. Now that's one way in which you could do it. You could try different things. Like for instance, I have two other um examples there, and let's pause for a few minutes and you could try those questions. So like for instance, like I wrote this, well, I don't, yeah, I just wrote a simple equation on a flashcard and I asked it and I used Gemini Live and it was able to guide me on how to answer the question. And I also was brainstorming, talking about the ethical implications of CRISPR. I did some interesting things. So all right. Now we won't go into these questions today, but when you're using these kind of tools, this is some of the kind of questions that you should be thinking about as you use the AI. And these are the kind of questions that our team and the other education developers at CELT, these are the kind of questions we like to discuss with instructors, who are looking at using GenAI. So please feel free to reach out to us and we could, have a conversation about these things. But I just thought I'll put these questions out there today so that you all could see them and, start thinking about those things. All right, so now we're going to go to the desktop version of Gemini. And so I could demonstrate that. I just come out of this. So this is just any Chrome browser I could open. And as you can see, it has my TMU email and stuff. So it has my TMU credentials. So all I do is I click on, let me get this bigger. All right. So I click on this menu at the top right corner and I choose Gemini. And now I'm in my desktop version of Gemini. It's still loading up a little bit. So everybody, if the next set of demos will involve us using the desktop version of Gemini. But it's basically like all of these different options, the different models, AI models that they are using. And the deep
Mm.
research is their more advanced model that has advanced reasoning. So you would use that model for more complex searches. And today we're not going to be doing deep research. I actually want to keep that for a next workshop because it will take a lot of time to go
Yeah.
into it. But I think this will pair very well with something else called Notebook LM, which is something that I want to talk about, but give that its time because it's very fascinating what it could do, and it would take a whole entire workshop by
Yeah.
itself. And just to note that there are different speeds that you could go at. So fast literally means that's the fastest model. It'll give a quick answer. And for this workshop, you might want to just keep it on fast so that it moves along quickly. And then there's thinking, and then there's pro. All right, so I'm going to go back to the presentation now that we've seen this. And I'll start back the slideshow. Right, so the next one is Nano Banana. And Nano Banana is the official code name for Google's state-of-the-art image generation and editing model. It lets users create and edit images using simple text prompts. It can blend photos, change backgrounds, adjust characters, and preserve realistic details across edits. Now, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with Nano Banana, but there's also a lot of things that normally go wrong with Nano Banana as well. It has come a long way. The technology definitely has come a long way, but don't expect that this is going to be replacing Photoshop anytime soon. But it does do a lot of very interesting stuff. I try to keep the examples though more to education based. So like for instance, one of the things that Nano Banana was the first one to do that no other because there are other options. There's something called DALI in ChatGPT. There's also Midjourney, and then there are others, but those are the more popular ones that do image generation. And one of the things that Nano Banana was able to do was give voice consistency, meaning that you could give like one prompt and generate an image, and then give a second prompt and it will keep the components of that first image and just make adjustments to it, which was something that a year ago wasn't possible because if you give that second prompt, it will generate a new image. But now we can keep the character constant. So this is like what I talk about with the consistency here. So if you want, you can actually, and this is also in our Google Doc, you can copy this prompt and add it to your Gemini. So let I could demonstrate that as well. So I could copy this prompt here, and it's in the Google Doc if you wanted there too. And I could go to Google Gemini, and I'm going to just copy and paste it. Now you could go on the tools and click create image, but Google Gemini is very intuitive to know that it's an image you're asking for. So I click there. And you see it's saying loading Nano Banana. So it's already, we know it's using the image generating model. And it has created this image. And let's see, what was the prompt? It said, generate a 3D animated style character for a friendly robot. He should be wearing a white lab coat. So he has a white lab coat and holding a magnifying glass, which, based on that simple prompt, it has met the criteria. Now, this is where it's new and interesting in that you can then take this second prompt. So I'm taking the prompt in step 2 now, and I'm going to put it in that chart there. So copy and paste it. So now take the exact same character and show him standing in the middle of a tropical rainforest looking at a giant butterfly. Keep his design and clothing identical. So we're going to be changing the environment, but keeping the clothing the same. All right. So looks the same character, has the same outfit, and it's wearing it has the magnifying glass, but it's in a well, one could argue that might it's a tropical rainforest, close enough. But you see where this could not have been done months ago, right? It would have generated a new image, the character would have been different and stuff. So this could be something like for people who are creating storyboards or in that kind of field, that could be very useful. A lot of these tools that we're going to be using, they're going to be having accessibility concerns, academic integrity, challenges and copyright and so on. And these are the kind of conversations that after you see what these tools can do, you should be thinking about. So Robert, that was a very good question. All right, so moving on to the other slide. Now, this is supposed to be a safe space, so this is me last night just drawing on a piece of paper, sketching out what could be how positive thinking affects mental health. And from that, I was able to upload that image onto Gemini, and I gave it this prompt. And you can try it as well. I have the you could, if you click on that link there that says here, you could download the same image. So all I did is that I wrote it on a piece of paper, and then I took a picture on my phone and I uploaded it to Gemini, and I gave it this prompt here. So you could copy and paste this prompt and try it out. And let me see, I could go to my chat history and I can show you what it did. And so okay, so let's go here. So I put the prompt in, I uploaded the image, I put the prompt in, and then it produced this, which was okay. But then I wanted to remove the arrows. So I say remove the arrows, and then it gave this. And so it was able to scan my handwriting and it was able to create this. Now, the only thing is that this is a JPEG, so it's not editable. And you will have to keep telling it, well, let's say you wanted to change the fonts and stuff, you could probably put a prompt there and change the fonts and keep working with it. But this is another feature in which it could take your handwritten stuff and try to create a digital version for you. And so yeah, so Laurie, will it convert it to an editable graphic file? So no, it's just a JPEG. It's not editable. The output. But what you could do is that if you see something there that you want to change, you'll have to talk to it. Like it's like for instance, you're working with a graphic designer and they are creating the image, and you're like, oh no, I don't like this in the top corner there. I want you to change that, and so you talk to it and see if it changes. All right. So that's another option. So please, give it a try. I'm going ahead a little bit because there's two things I really want to talk about, which is gems and the canvas that I think will be very exciting for you all. As I said, for anybody who came late, there's a worksheet as well. Just change the tab here. This worksheet you have full access to. Please, it has all the prompts and all the steps that I'm taking in there. If there's something that I am doing in the workshop that's not in that document that you'll need, please reach out. I'm happy to share whatever I have. All right, so the tip now. Now there is the normal nano banana. So if I go back to Google, you would see, and I did this a few times. Like you can see here as well. This was one of them. So sometimes it's not perfect, right? You have to give it a few iterations. So these are some other ones, right? But for all of them, you see, okay, no, that's not a good one. It might be very faint, but there's a watermark there. And that's because I was using the normal Gemini. The normal Nano Banana. Nano Banana comes in two flavors, if you will. There's Nano Banana, the normal one, and then there's Nano Banana Pro. The Nano Banana Pro, when you generate an image using Nano Banana Pro, it removes the watermark, but there's a lot more going on too. It's a much more advanced model, so it could give you up to 4K quality images. And it could, like, if you are dealing, this is infographics, this is a very simple graphic. But if you're dealing with like photos and stuff, it can really go in there and do some very interesting things. Now, how do you activate it? Now, because I was using a fast model, it automatically will create images using the lower end Nano Banana. So it uses the one that everybody has access to, and that's where you get this watermark. And you don't get that great a product. But if you change the model and you use the thinking model or the pro model, it will automatically use Nano Banana Pro, which is the better image generator. Now there's a catch, right? You have like maybe 6 or 8 uses a day of Nano Banana Pro. And once you finish that, it then defaults back to Nano Banana. But the way how you could trigger Nano Banana Pro is again by using these two, either one of these models to generate your image. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you all. Is there any questions or anything that you want to ask about this? And in the meantime, these were some other things that you could try. So for instance, like a lesson or whatever we are creating, I could put up an image and it might be of a different aspect ratio. So it might look like a box, but I really wanted it to look like something like a post up on Pinterest or something. And you want a 9:16 aspect ratio. Nano Banana could do that, and it's not going to just crop the image. It will use something like, if you're familiar with Photoshop and stuff, called content aware fill, and it fills the spaces, so it looks like a very good replication of the image, that is not just cropped. And then another thing you could do is you could write some data and do a quick graph on a page, and then Nano Banana could take that and make it as a professional data visualization. But as I said before, just remember the output is a JPEG image. So that image you is not editable. And if you change the values, you'll have to go back and regenerate the image. All right, so guided learning. Now, guided learning is a specialized tutor mode that instead of generating a completed essay or a solved math equation, this mode really adopts a Socratic approach that leads to a back and forth educational journey. And what that means basically is that it doesn't give you the answer, right? It's supposed to be guiding you to the answer and giving you prompts and so on. So back in the day, this was one of the ways in which, like, if we were using Chat GPT or Gemini, that if we wanted to use a prompt, we would have to go this way. So you'll have to say, wait for my answer on each, and then assess my answer. Do not give me the answer, even if I ask. Instead, if I'm struggling or get the wrong answer, please give me a hint, and I'll start now with the first question. So you'll have to put all of that into the prompt. But now, if you're using guided learning, all of that is in the background already. So you just have to ask the question, I want to learn about, and whatever topic it is. Or it could be that you could even upload a question. So like let's say a math question, and it will start helping you breaking down the steps in solving that question. So now the question could be, and I'm just going to keep it simple so that because this is an audience from many disciplines. I'm a grade 4 student in Canada and I would like to learn about habitats. So, and then it says, remember to choose the guided learning tool. Now, this is a very simple one, and it's also, Gemini will process it quite quickly. So again, you could just copy the prompt. And when you go to Google Gemini, so I'm going to click on New Chat, and I'm going to just paste the prompt in. Now, before you click enter or you submit it, all right, you want to make sure that guided learning is activated. So how you do that is that you choose tools and you choose guided learning. So now it's activated. So for images, you don't need to go in and choose Nano Banana. It knows you want to create an image, but for guided learning, you have to be more explicit about it. So choose guided learning, and then you click submit. All right, and it starts to give you some background information as you close. So it gives you like these are some different things that you can learn. And it says which part sounds more interesting to you. So you could choose a part, and then it'll start talking about it and asking you questions and so on. And as I said, this was a very simple one. You could just imagine that if you could expand this prompt, so you could say, what level you're at undergrad, what subject discipline, you can even add the learning outcomes, and it could work with you on preparing for an exam and so on. All right, so now we go to gems. And gems are, I'll read this out, customizable AI assistants that you can create and save to handle specific repetitive tasks or act as specialized experts on a particular topic. And I think you could read this, but I think if I demo it, it will make more sense to you all. So I'm going to go back to Google Gemini, and I'm just going to click on New Chat. And what I do is that I look at, there should be gems in your left column there. And if you're not seeing that, I also have a screenshot of it, right? So you expand the menu on the left, and then there under gems, there should be a gem option there. So again, I'll go back again. So this is when you open up Gemini, this is what it should look like. And then you expand the menu. So that's on the top left there. And then you should see gems and you could click this arrow. Is there anybody who needs help or want me to do that over again? Okay, so I think everybody's here. Now, if you have never created a gem, you're not going to see anything here, and that's fine. But if you want to start creating a new gem, you can click here. Now, what I want to show you all is So I have created, just for a demo, a TMU GenAI guide. And I want to show you what that looks like. So if I edit here, it has I give it a name, TMU GenAI guide. I gave a description of it, and then I gave the instructions. And in the knowledge base, I provided a PDF that I wanted the gem to draw information from. And this is what it looks like in action. So if I go back to the slide here under gems, you all could click on this link and it will open up Gemini, but it will open up the My Gem. So if you click on this link here, it opens up Gemini. And the first prompt we could try, so everybody could follow with me and you could try it on your end as well, is that if I say, so it says so far TMU Gen AI guide. So once you've seen that, you're in the right spot. Use the TMU Gen AI guide to answer questions about generative AI in the TMU context for students and instructors. So let's say I start off with hello. It tells me welcome to the TMU Gen AI guide gem. And it gives you some sample questions that you could ask. So let's go with this first one. What is generative AI? So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in there. And so it's breaking down the answer of what is generative AI. Now, if you see here, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. There's a paper clip there. And what that does is that it gives you this piece of information. But if I click on that paper clip, it pulls up the PDF that I had uploaded as the knowledge base. And if you scroll, you see, and I hope you can see it on your screen, it's highlighting where it is pulling the information from. So basically, for the gem, you can verify if the information is correct, like if it's really pulling from the source, or is it fabricating and making up the information. So that's one thing it can do. All right. I think what was the other prompt? So what is GenAI? Quiz me about prompt engines. So let me copy that and place it into the TMU GenAI guide. So I put that question into the prompt, and now it opens a side window. And what it's doing is actually creating a quiz based on the information it is pulling from that PDF that I gave it as part of its knowledge base. And so it's creating 10 questions. And so you have let me zoom out a little bit. So you have the questions there, and I'm just going to choose some answers. See, so it says not quite, and it gives me the right answers. It gives me instant feedback. I'm not sure what this question is asking me, so I can get a hint, and I can go, oh, that's randomly I got that correct. And I could even, let's skip question 3. Let's say I don't know what question 3 is about. And then I go to question 4, and I'm just going to answer some of them. 5, I'm going to skip question 6, and I'm just going to go. 9, oh, got 9 correct, and then 10. So I just randomly answer, and then it gives you this score. So it says I thought I got some correct, but again, it's not perfect. It said I got 8 wrong and skipped 2, but it gave me a score of 0. So maybe I have to tweak that. But it gives me I could create flashcards, or I could create a study guide based on what was covered there. Or I could ask for more questions. And so this could be a very great learning tool for students, that they could use as a kind of form of formative assessment and so on. Things to explore. All right. And I think the last question was, what is the GenAI policy at the University of Waterloo? So remember, this PDF that I gave it only had information about TMU. So let's see how it handles that information. So it says it doesn't have that in the PDF. So the good news is it's still pulling from the PDF. All right, so I've shown you how I set up the gem, what the gem can do. But let me show you a little bit more what happens in the background. So I'm going to go to that document, that companion document that I shared with you all. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better. Now in the table of contents, let's go under gems. Let's click on TMU GenAI Guide Information. So if you click on that, it should send you to page 5 of the document. And there I've given you all everything that I use to create the gem. So you have the name, so you could recreate this gem if you want this to give it a try. So for the name, I have TMU GenAI Guide. I gave it a description. Now, the instructions, I tend to be very into prompt engineering and stuff, and feel free to use this because you might have a gem in mind and some of the concepts here you could reuse and just change the information. So, for instance, like, define who your audience is, state what the welcome message is. Like for instance, when I had typed hello, it already knew what welcome message to give. So it had the different options or questions. I told it what style it should adopt. I told it to pull citations from the PDF. Um, if there's different versioning, refusals and redirects. So, like for instance, if you're asking about questions like that Waterloo question and stuff, it knows what to say. Um, Safety and privacy, you know, and so on. So what it and I also gave it examples of what it could do and what it shouldn't do. So again, reinforcing the instructions on how to work with the questions that somebody might give for this gem. So for instance, like for example, don't cite non-TMU sources, don't write well maybe this one is from something else. But you get that. So and then you could so the knowledge file that I use in knowledge base, it's here, so you could download the file. So in other words, that same entire gem that I created, you all have all the information necessary. And we're also recording this. You could go through it step by step and feel free to reach out to me. I would love to, I'll work with you all on creating your own gems. But this is some guidance here. Now, another one that I did, again, the instructions here is you could create a syllabus Gemini gem. And so for instance, like you could put a name. So all the everything in square brackets there. You could enter your name. You could give the instructions again, and then these are the different rules of engagement. So that's fill in if you want to create a syllabus gem, you want to just fill in the little pieces of information that is missing. And then so these are the different steps. So you created the gem. Yes, another thing I should have said is that those instructions didn't come in one shot. It's like I created the gem. I asked a few questions and I realized, oh, I broke it here and I broke it there. So I have to go back and improve on the instructions to guide the gem to make sure that it's answering the questions properly. So just be aware of that. Like for me, everything I've created using these chatbots has never been like a one shot. Like I get instant success. It's always like you're going back and forth, troubleshooting and getting where you want to go. So, but that said, even like this prompt, which is pretty advanced, even when you try it out for your information, something might break, something might not work, and you have to go back and troubleshoot and be like, well, what in the instructions might be vague, or what do I else I have to tell the gem so that it knows not to answer it that way or be guided differently. And yeah. And so one thing about like things like the syllabus is like in step 5, you're going to go to the syllabus now, the actual syllabus, and you could hyperlink the gem to it. But so that this person now has 24/7 access to a gem. But what you have to be clear about, and I think I have it somewhere, yes. Under input, this tool is a guide. So you see, telling your student this tool is a guide to help you find information in syllabus. The official syllabus document posted on the LMS remains the definitive source of information. If the AI's answer seems strange or you need further clarification, always double check the original document or ask merely TA. So you can do something like that because these gems, although they are pulling from a PDF, there's still that chance it could fabricate the information. So you need to make sure you put that disclaimer in there as well. Yeah. So I've seen some good comments in the chat there. Yeah, Laurie, I hope if there's one thing I hope at the end of this is that people are encouraged to explore these things. And Fari's like, would you be able to help me with some? Okay, sorry. Yeah, sure. We will talk later, Fari. All right. Let's go back to this thing. Now I know time is going, but so yeah, so you could try your syllabus, Jam. Tell me, reach out if you need to tweak it. If you reach out somewhere that you need some troubleshooting and you want some help, I'm happy to look at it. Now, the last thing I want to do, which is very exciting as well, is Canvas. Now, you might have heard of Canvas, like in other universities, there's a LMS called Canvas, but this one is Canvas is a tool. We're talking about a dedicated tool within the Gemini there that we can really use. Today, what we're going to be doing is something real simple, but all of this is simple. I hope you can see the potential and what it could possibly do for you. So I'm just going to, again, I'm going to keep it really simple. And you could follow with me. So I'm going to start a new chat again. All right. And I'm going to make sure. So you see, it says Gemini there. It says hi, Jason. It means that I'm back to the main Gemini page. I'm no longer in that gem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this one line. Create a lesson for grade 4 Canadian students on habitats. And I'm just going to, oh, see, I nearly made a mistake. You have to tell Gemini that you want to use Canvas. So it's one of the tools as the option there. You choose Canvas. And then I just click submit. And it starts creating a lesson plan for this topic. I remember it's grade 4, so it's very simple. But what you can do in Canvas that's unlike with Nano Banana is that you could edit inside Canvas. So for instance, like I could just click inside there and I could change the text there, or I could there's even some formatting there. So you could bold, you could italicize, you could add bullets. So you could edit this as much as you want. There's also options here in the toolbar where you could change the length. Like if you find that this is not long enough, you can even highlight section and say, I want you to expand on this. I want to change the tone. So it goes from so it goes to a very casual to a very formal. It's kind of iffy, but you can practice with that. And then, ironically, it could suggest edits on what it just generated. And you could keep doing some iterations until you get what you would like to the final product. And so this is what it looks like. All right. And let's see, what's the next step? So I just showed the editing canvas. Okay. Now there are a few things. Once you are happy with the product, there are other things you can do with it. So like for instance, let me just, yeah. If I click on this create button, it gives me a few things that I can do. I can create a web page. I could create an infographic where, like with Nano Banana, you couldn't edit the infographic. But with this one, with Canvas, you can. So let's keep that in mind. You could create quiz, you could create flashcards, you could create audio overview. But for today, let's create a web page. So I choose the option of creating a web page. And what's going to do is going to actually create a web page on this information here. So let's see what it does. That's the preview there. And so you see it has questions, let's see if it came. So the 4 basic needs, select a need above to learn why it is essential. Let's say if you choose food, all right, it gives me that. If I choose space, all right. And Canadian habitat. So let's see, select a habitat to see its residents, so you could get that. And you see, so ox is coming out here, moose, bear, okay. It's comparing climates, energy flow. Oh, and it even has questions and stuff. So you see, and the thing is that you can still edit, right? So for instance, like if you are familiar with coding, you could go into the code itself and change the code, right? But if not, you could even do it from the preview side. So let me say that let's go to let's see, what's it? Exploring Canadian habitats and communities. Let's say I wanted to change that. I can choose, so you see the toolbar there, I can say select and ask, and I could just highlight this, and I could ask Gemini, give me a more engaging title. Let's see what it comes up with. The only thing is that I think I've been using it whole day troubleshooting, so I think it's a little slow right now. Because it was moving much faster early on. So those are the kind of things that you have to put up with as well. Okay, so so you see it changed the title. All right, it gave a different kind of background to suit the title as well. But what's cool about it is that it's not just changing it in the preview, it's also updating it in the code as well. So you see it's updated the title here. So it's updating in the code. So when you take that code out, it has all the changes. And if you don't like the changes, you could always go back as well. So 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 like people like myself who have very, very limited coding skills, now there's this the lower entry point where you can create interactive websites. So it's something to think about. Now, there's one challenge though with using the TMU version of Gemini, and it has to do with the type of license. So like when you go to share this, all you could do is copy the contents. But let me see if I could. I'm just going to. So this is my private Gemini. And so I want to show the difference now with what you could do. So this was, again, every time you generate it, it's going to look different. So this was another one that I did. Took a few minutes. But what the private version of Gemini has is that if I share here and I click share, it actually gives me a link. And if I copy that link, I could actually just share it with everybody. And you all, like if you share it with your students, you all can have it. Now, the thing is that is that the enterprise license, again, it's in a walled garden. It doesn't want to go out. But with this shared feature for my private version is creating a public link. And because the license doesn't put anything public, that's why the TMU version is preventing me. So you might be like, well, Jason, so then why you went through all this trouble to show me how to use this thing in TMU? I'm all excited, and now I can't do it. Well, the good news is that I found a workaround for us. All right. And I know it will definitely work on Apple, but it'll be the same concept for Windows computer. So what I do is that I'm going to go into text edit. So I'm going to open my text editor. I'm going to create a new document. Now, so for Windows users, I think you'll have something called Notepad. The whole idea here is that we just want to get a plain text editor. So for Windows users, it might be Notepad. So do a search for Notepad. For Apple users, it's going to be text editor. And what I do is before I put anything in there, I just make sure I select it. I go under format and I make sure it's plain text alone so the window changes. And now what I do is I come back in this window with the code, make sure code is selected, and I just Command A. So that means I've selected the entire code. And then I click Command C, and that's a copy the entire thing. And then I paste it in there. And now this is the tricky part. So when I click File, Save, I change the .text to HTML. And if I click Save now, it says, do you want to save it as a HTML file? And if I save it as a HTML file, oh, I didn't even know where it went. Ooh, where did you go? Oh, it went to downloads. All right. So I'm going to open my downloads folder. So my downloads folder, it's untitled HTML. But the thing is that if I click on this file, it's a HTML file. So it will open up in any browser, and boom, you have the whole website there. So I could even yeah. So that's the way if you create it using the TMU version, that's the workaround that you could do. I only figured it out this morning, so I don't have any steps in the document, but I can type that up by tomorrow for you. You have your shared document. So you see all these steps if you decide to go the route with the TMU version. Right. And this is David is quite correct. Like if you have that extra level, you could use something called Visual Code Studio. It's free, but need a little more. The learning curve is a little higher, or you can use Sublime Text. But a normal notepad or text editor will work as well. So there's something to think about. And I know one of the other things that I kind of glossed over, but let me just go back to it, is that if I go to the gems, now the thing is that you could create all these gems, and up till about maybe October of last year, you could not share them. But now, if you watch, when you go in there and you see your gems, you just have to click the share button. And luckily, you can share just like how you share Google Doc with your students or any other Google file. You could give them viewer, you could give them editor privileges, and so on. So that's something else to note. All right. So we're almost there to the end. Thank you all for staying along. The do's and don'ts. So keep trying different things and tools. Share. I always believe in sharing. That's why I share everything that I do in GenAI. I hope people learn from it. I hope they send me back stuff that work for them so I can learn from others as well. Recognize that GenAI is not perfect. It's not that silver bullet. And be curious and critical. As I said, GenAI is not perfect, and definitely keep on experimenting. Right, the don'ts. Don't just rule it out, and be transparent. Don't. And you know what? This thing is so new, and it's rapidly evolving and changing that it is very easy that we don't know everything. That I don't think anybody is an expert in it, to be fair. But let's be careful about student work, private data. And there is, and this the Academic Integrity Office, they have a whole procedure of what to do if you think a student is maybe using AI in unsanctioned way, and you could look at what's the process there, but just be careful about that. And remember, TMU, our stance on AI plagiarism checkers, they just don't work. They tend to detect a lot of false positives. And remember, it's still just an algorithm, a very sophisticated algorithm at the end of the day. A lot of people try to humanize it and give it human properties. And for me, I see it in social work especially to be an excellent learning tool, because then you can look at the output and critically analyze it and see, well, why is the bias? Even like creating well, it's come a long way, but when it now came out, you actually create an image of a doctor, for instance. it was always a white man, and that's because of the kind of way it was trained. So we have to be always aware and vigilant about the biases in these algorithms. So thank you, Abdul, for highlighting that. All right, so this is pretty much the end, but what I would be like, I'm thinking like I feel like there's a next workshop in me in terms of like what I could show you all could be done. Like we haven't touched Notebook LM and Google AI Studio, or we haven't even looked at other LLMs. So there is a feedback form at the end. Please, just take 5 minutes, fill it out, and let me know like what other technologies you might be interested in that we could do a similar workshop on and always reach out. And I think David just put the link to the feedback survey. So please, these were again, Notebook LM, I think that's huge. That has a lot. It's not part of the TMU license yet. It might be in the future, but not right now. But it's something that we could explore and see the potential in. And that is where Abdul, like coming back to like earlier on, this is where like the deep research function has a real important role to play. All right, so how can the TDDL team help? How do we give self-support? So we do it at two levels. We do it at the departmental level, where like the DL team, other educational developers, we come in, we talk to the departments. At that level, we come to the departmental meeting, we discuss AI, address any questions, concerns. So if you think this could benefit your department, please, talk to your chair. We are happy to come in there. So that's at departmental level. We also do one-on-one consultations. So we would like to, like, if you are thinking about ways in which you want to integrate some of the stuff that we are doing here, please reach out. You have my email, or it might be from our faculty with a liaison that you already work with. Please reach out to them. We are happy to help, and you could contact us. That's the general CELT email at the bottom there that you could just reach out for help generally, and somebody at CELT will put you on to somebody. And just my colleague M, they are doing two programs, the Excellence in Teaching programs. You can check that out, as well as there's the CIE, which my colleague David in this chat is also involved in. And one of the modules in CIE is managing generative AI in the classroom. So you hear a lot more of, now that you have seen what the tools could do, that one really addresses assessment and academic integrity and so on. But it's only open for QP 1 and 2 faculty. So that's just to keep that in mind. And again, more resources and so on. So David has already put the feedback link there. I would be very appreciative if you could fill it out because and be honest. I mean, like I want the good and the bad because we want to give these workshops at least every term, and we want to improve on them. So please tell us like how best we can serve you all.